Welcome to BlackUSA.news morning show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real.
Greetings and salutations, all my friends out there in internet land. I am William Honolulu Jr., and I have the privilege and honor of serving as the host of the Black USA News Morning Show. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. This show really would be pointless if it wasn't for you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We are exceptionally grateful for you being here and joining us. Today we're going to have a really great conversation because y'all know I know dope people. I think I may have mentioned that a time or two before. And I get an opportunity today to introduce you all to one of the dopest, an incredible entrepreneur. Excuse me. She has started her own business. She has an incredible story of triumph, and she gives back, and she is able to find her way through any bureaucracy. I seen her fill out forms. I was like, ooh, that might take a while. She's like, boom, off and gone, and she gets results. Miss Sashay Wonson. She's going to be joining us in just a little bit. And what we are going to be talking about today is not necessarily, we're not going to go too deeply into her training as a mental health professional, and her incredible credentials in that space. She's going to talk to us a little bit about kind of the realities of student loan forgiveness and how she navigated successfully through that process. I've been looking through the research when it comes to student loan forgiveness. The amount of student loan debt that people have is just ridiculous. As one of those who has it, and what I've realized in my journey in dealing with finances and stuff like that is that the student loan was based on an incredibly predatory practice. You give people access to money who don't understand money, come from environments where they've not had control over money or anything like that, and just say, hey, you have to go to school. Without it, you will not be able to make it out of poverty. And what we're finding is that a lot of people are now the poor, the working poor. In many cases, it's student loan debt. The only other type of debt that has as significant impact on people tends to be debt around medical care. So, the education system and the healthcare system are the source of the majority of debt that most people have. That's a problem. And so anytime we can find somebody who has been able to navigate the system, we want to bring them to the table, because it's really easy for policymakers and politicians to talk about what the program should do, how it should work. And we set this up so it works like that. It's something vastly different to talk to somebody who has been able to navigate that process and really take it to the next level. Actually, not even take it to the next level, be successful, holding the process accountable to what it should be doing. All right, one of the things that, before we get into that, y'all know I got show notes, so I have to go through a certain order of things, not even just order. I part of our opportunity to give back and make sure that you all know about great organizations and opportunities in the community. This is that. First and foremost, I love talking about Breadcoin. Breadcoin is an organization that takes donation and turns it into food. They take your donations and they put it against the coins that they mint, the bread coin. The bread coin right now has a value of about $2.50. And these bread coin are distributed through a network of individuals and organizations that are already actively engaged in the community and helping community members access resources. So the Breadcoin network already knows where the needs are. And so they distribute the they distribute the Breadcoin through this network to individuals who are currently in need. Now, this is the best part for me. The people who receive the Breadcoin, they can go to a participating restaurant or caterer and pay for their meal with Breadcoin by itself or Breadcoin and a mix of cash. The great part about it is that they are able to address their hunger, address their need for food without having to sacrifice their dignity. A lot of times we ask people to show that they're hurt enough or show that they're desperate before we feel comfortable helping them. Why? Why do we have to have people give up their dignity? I've heard numerous people say about giving money to people on the street, they don't look homeless. And because they don't look it, they feel justified in not supporting them. I'm very happy to be partnered with an organization that recognizes the importance of dignity when we're going to help people. Black USA News has developed a set of continuing coverage for the Maryland 2022 elections. We talk about all of these programs, the money that's needed, and the problems that are in the community. Well, one of the problems that we have in the community is that we have elected officials whose names may be recognized, but we don't really know what they stand for. We get good, really glossy brochures and door hanging tags and advertisements. But what does that mean when it comes to accountability? What are they going to do to improve the quality of our lives? So what we've done is we've taken all of the coverage that we have on Black USA News and we've brought it to one place so that you can get not just information from our hosts and our pundits, but also hear what the candidates themselves have to say about what they're going to do moving forward. We need to make sure that we are clearly educated, because if you all recognize this, our democracy only exists because there were a few elected officials who thought that a coup was too far. All of the ingredients were in place. And guess what has been happening? At the local level, they have been primarying and meaning getting out their candidates early in the election cycle who believe in the big lie, who want to undermine democracy. We have an election denier running for offices throughout Maryland. So it becomes incumbent on us all to make sure that we are that we are educating ourselves and doing what we can to elect the people who will have our best interest at heart. Fosterpreneur is an amazing organization that teaches entrepreneurship to alumni of the foster care system. They take a trauma-informed approach to help these alumni of the system learn entrepreneurship from a perspective that makes sense for them. A lot of times when we engage people, we want to bring them into our world. Hey, you got to leave what you know behind and learn something brand new. That's not the approach Fosterpreneur takes. Fosterpreneur works with their existing knowledge base and helps them understand the businesses that they are going to build and they are going to run in the context that they live. It's a trauma-informed approach to entrepreneurship education that has incredible results. So I'm very, 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 very happy to invite you all to share this information about Fosterpreneur. Fosterpreneur.org is the website. The applications are open for the next cohort. So make sure that you share the information. Let's see. You know what? I think that's about it, because I want to hurry up and get in here and get some information about how to save some money. You know, because it's rough out here. Brother's like, woo, I do a lot of volunteering. I need to get that subsidized. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring to the table a wonderful woman, Miss Sashay Wonson. Hey, Sashay.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So there may be people who don't know you. This may be their first opportunity to see or hear from you. So tell them a little bit about who you are.
Okay, before I get into that, I first want to take a time to thank Mr. William for inviting me to Black USA News. This is a wonderful opportunity, and I'm very thankful for you giving me that opportunity to be on your show.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Without further ado, I first want to get into a little bit about talking about myself and how I came into debt, because it wasn't one of your traditional ways of me being aware that I was taking out student loans.
Mm-hmm.
Starting, as a young adult transitioning into older adult, you become more informed as time go on. But when you're just getting out of high school and you're filling out applications and trying to get into college, you're not really understanding what it means to actually take out student loans. So I'm a former foster youth. And as a former foster youth, my education, as far as undergraduate, was supposed to have been paid for. That had not happened due to certain forms not being filled out on my social worker's part. So I missed that opportunity to have my education paid for. But the way I found out was during the time of me getting student loans. So I went to Baltimore City Community College, where I received my AA degree. And during that time, I received Pell Grants. So the Pell Grants were based on need based. So those are grants that you do not have to pay back. At that time, I wasn't even aware that's what that meant. I just knew that my education was getting paid for and I was going to school. It wasn't until I got to Coppin State University and I was no
Big up
longer.
to Coppin. Sorry.
Yes, whoop, whoop, shout out to Coppin. So I transitioned from Baltimore City Community College, and then I went to Coppin State to get my bachelor's degree. And so when I applied for Coppin State, I had realized that I didn't have enough Pell Grant to cover everything, but just enough for one semester.
Mm-hmm.
So they informed me that I had to take out loans, but because I was a former foster youth, which was ward of the state, it would be paid for.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, I was like, okay, no problem. I'm filling out the information. They asked for my court documents. I submitted them, and I'm just going to school. And so each semester I would get basically a bill in my account. And then I would call about it and they said, don't worry about it. Your student loans will cover it. And I'm like, well, isn't the state covering this? Why do I keep saying this in my account? And they said, well, it's nothing to worry about. You know, they will cover it. And it wasn't until I went to financial aid, because it was an ongoing theme of me getting something into my account where you have this large amount of money in your account is more than enough to cover your educational expenses, your and they say select the amount you want. And so when you're young, you're thinking like select the amount I want all of it.
Right.
But
Why wouldn't I take it?
exactly. But what I did was I just took enough that was for my books. It was more so, you know, me saying, hey, I didn't need that much. I'm just going to take enough to cover for my books and my.
Big up. Well, I'm sorry. Big up to you for that type of discipline, because that
Yeah.
I can't. I absolutely did not do that part. Big
Yeah.
up.
I've seen amounts that were $40,000. I was like, all I have to do, and it was a click of a button. So let's be clear. It was an easy transition. It wasn't that I had to fill out so much paperwork and I had to understand, you know, what interest was or what does this mean in terms of in the future, my ability to pay, buy a home or get a car loan or even just have a family. I just saw big numbers and it said, take out what you need. So I knew what my tuition costs and I knew what they estimated books and supplies would cost. And that's and so after that wasn't until I was exiting out of Coppin and I had to complete a promissory note. And I didn't even know what that was either. And, you know, basically I was just in my own language, I was like, I'm just going to sign this paper as we do when we're young and we don't read the fine print. And I said, promissory note that I promised to pay them back. And I didn't any of the implications. I just signed off on it, graduated, and then I got this wonderful idea from such a supportive system. My former teacher, Shonda Duncan, she was like, you're going to go to graduate school. So I'm just like, great. And I did the same thing, only with graduate school. You don't get your education paid for from the foster care system, only undergrad. Wasn't I fully understand when I was in my mid-20s, when I was in graduate school. At that time, I knew I was taking out a loan. I knew what that had meant, but I still didn't make the connection. When you were an undergrad, you were going to have to pay back not only the undergrad money, but you were also going to have to pay back your master's degree. And so I know. And it wasn't until 6 months later, the bills started coming in. And I was like, wait, what's this? Part of this was supposed to have been paid for. I wasn't such a big amount. And not only that, I said, these weren't the original numbers that I took out. That's the interest part. So that's the little secret ingredient that they have in the back that they don't really want to give to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I just was like, I'm just going to do what I have to do and just pay it. And I wasn't thinking about longevity wise. If you only pay the minimum amount, you're going to start accruing mountain of interest, and then it's going to capitalize and they're going to add that onto your principal, and it's going to continue to grow. And so I did not skip a beat in terms of paying my student loans. 2014, and it is now 2022. And I over time that for some reason, although I was paying my student loans, the balance wasn't really budging. And I thought that that was just normal. And it was like everyone have student debts because everyone say, oh, everyone got that, or you're never going to pay it off. And I was just looking at it like, oh, I'm working towards paying it off, but why isn't it moving? And it never clicked for me to still, contact someone, really understand what student loans, see why it's accruing so much interest. I just kept paying it up until the pandemic, which was when March 13th of 2020 came, when the government, decided that, hey, you do not have to pay any student loans and you don't have to pay any interest as well in this pandemic process. And so it wasn't until 2020. Remember, I graduated in 2014 with my master's program that I realized I was like, but it shouldn't take this long. It shouldn't take 10 years for me to pay off student loans. So let me look into these numbers and see why it is that it is accruing so much. So when I graduated from school, I had exactly $32,000 in student debt. In addition to $32,000 from community college, and then my first semester at Coppin State University, I had 10,000 in grants. So that was a total of 42,000 and 10,000 that I didn't have to pay back. With the 32,000, I was wondering why it really wasn't budgeting at all. I would look like it was going down and then it would go back up. And I always thought when I heard people say, I pay my loans, but they don't go anywhere, or it's a higher balance. And in my mind, I thought they're not being honest about their repayment process, because how is it that you can be paying towards something every month, but then it's not going down? That doesn't make sense. Maybe you skip payments or maybe you miss payments. So that's it wasn't until I actually contact my service loan department, and that was Navient, before last year it switched over to Advantage. So this was back in 2020 when I decided that, okay, I'm going to look into it. We have this student loan pause. And what does this mean to me in terms of taking advantage of the student loan pause to get this balance down? I started looking back from 2014, seeing when I first did my initial payment, were $200, but they were charging me $150 in interest. So really only $50 was going to my principal, and the $150 was going into these predatory lenders' pockets. And then I started getting angry. I started experiencing all of these emotions I never experienced before while paying my student loans. Because as I'm looking, I'm seeing over time that I'm giving thousands of dollars. You're talking about from 2014 all the way up to 2020. And only about $50 is going to my principal. And at the interest 6.8%. And then I had a few, so I had 6 different loans. Majority of them was 6.8%. I did have 2 of them that were 3.4%. And saying everything that no wonder it's going to take so long, 10 years. That's the average that they give everyone, that they estimate that it may take to pay off your student loans, as long as you pay on time and you pay the amount that they say. But what happens is some students will call in and say, hey, I can't afford your $375 a month or your $200 a month. So can we do income based, or can we do what I can afford? So what that means is now you're going off of that plan that they had for you to pay for 10 years to it's good. It can take you 20, 30 or all your life, because if you're only paying the minimum of less than what they expect, you're never going to pay these loans off. And that was something that I did in the beginning. Initially, my student loans was $375 coming out of school. But when I called before they start, I asked for, can I get it based on income? So that's where the $200 payment started. And I realized, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have to hustle and pay more, because I wasted giving them thousands of dollars. I've given them over $10,000 in interest, but few went towards my student loans. And it was almost equivalent as having a mortgage. It's the same process. So
Yes.
we're talking about student loans. There's very much predatory lending practices when it comes to home ownership, not to get off topic, but you're paying
Mm-hmm.
three on your home. So it's the same thing. It takes 30 years because you are paying a small percentage towards your mortgage, but the rest go to interest. And it's the same thing with student loans.
Yes.
So with student loans, I realized, I said, okay, well, how does this number out in interest? I'm still not understanding that. It wasn't until I looked at, I was almost paying $5 a day in interest. And I was like, wow. So would they take your interest, which mine was 6.8. So you do 0.068 divided
Whoa,
by.
whoa, 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 whoa. You about to go into a whole bunch of math that I don't know if everybody's ready for,
Okay.
trying to keep up with all the mental math in your heads. You clearly are good at that.
Yeah.
One of the things, let me just jump in here real quick, though, to talk about the lending structure, because I want people to understand how they end up in those types of situations. And so the student loans and the home loans, that let's never forget that these places are in business to make money. They're
Yes.
not they're not there to educate you. They're not there to support you. They are there to provide you a service, and products, and that's it. That is their obligation. And they get rated not necessarily on how well you do, but how well they do.
That's
And
right.
so, it's the same way that you, if you're at work, you say, "Hey, look, I'm not trying to give you extra whatever, because that's, I have to be here after you're gone." That's the same thing for them. Now, where I have a larger issue, and you clearly identified this a few times, but I just want to highlight it, is that all of the people who only get their training from the lenders,
Mm-hmm.
if you are in financial aid, if you are in these places, recognize that you are working. Well, let me take a step back. Let us recognize that they don't work for the students either. They work for the university.
That's right.
If you are a financial aid person, or you work in financial aid, and you are not generating the numbers that they think that they need you to generate, well, then you're going to lose your job. It's I don't want to. I'm not suggesting they're not good people out there who are trying to work with you or trying to make sure they do the best that they can. But I just want you to realize, especially those of you all who have students that are going, because one of the places that people are having a lot of challenge is the parent loan, plus loan, parents of their students. A lot of parents are having problems with that in repayment. So that's separate. But remember that the people who are working for the university, look where they get paid. The people who are working for the lender, look where they get paid.
Yes.
Recognize that there are certain, and we're going to talk about this in a little while, Sashay, to talk about the resources and places you can go to access good information that's designed to help you. But I always say, in situations like this, making sure that you think about where people are getting paid, to figure out who has your interest at heart genuinely, or who you need to make sure that you realize they as they should, they're working on their interest. But that means that when you understand that, that means you have to work on yours even more. So that's one thing. The other thing that, and we're going to circle back around to this later as well, the challenges that you had working through the system.
Yes.
These people who are, again, not knocking them, they're just saying what they got trained to say, not realizing how complicated or how many other sheets of paper they needed to be filled out. This is another part of the student loan debacle. No one checks to see how much other stuff you're qualified for, and have you taken the steps necessary to access. Why? Because nobody's getting paid to do that.
Yes.
So I just wanted to jump in there, because I didn't want to get too far away from those points, because your story highlights it so well, how this is not just something, because it's easy. A lot of the politicians and talking heads say, well, they should have known better. They should have read. They could have da. But you're in a situation where all of this stuff happened, and all of the people you were supposed to trust to make sure that you, like, literally, they all knew you were a ward of the state. And all of them knew that there was a process to support you, and no one held it accountable. And now at the end of it, that's another what, $10,000-$15,000 that you didn't have, you shouldn't have had.
Yes.
Because the people who were supporting you gave you bad information. And if I'm not mistaken, there's no recourse.
That's right. Oh yeah, no, not at all. And the reason why I thought it was important, before we get into the major topics of what are the resources, what does it look like in terms of you understanding where you are first in debt and how do you go about navigating the system to try to get some financial relief. I thought this was important because, as you highlighted, when you're listening to the news and you're listening to these politicians and saying, I pay my debt and don't sign up for money if you're not going to pay it back, or make sure you're understanding what you're paying back. You're talking about corporates and adults targeting young adults coming from out of high school, or people that's just ill-informed about what it is and what it means to take out a loan. It's no difference than you raising your children. You raise your children to do well. You raise your children to have some sense of normalcy when it comes to their childhood, but you're advising them on along the way on what they should be doing in terms of their development. So when they transition into adulthood, they can thrive and they can survive out in this world alone. Well, you have youth coming from high school and they just have these mountains and mountains of paperwork being thrown at them by different adults, and they just want to get through the process because they work in an office and they're just trying to get to the next student. But during that translation, and they're not understanding and explaining things to them. And then you might have parents that are very supportive and they're walking their children through the student loan process and ensuring that they might not be taking out too much. But you have some parents that is not aware of this process, or they have children for the first time in their generation going to college, and they rely on them to understand and possibly come back and help them understand that system to motivate them to possibly go back. And you're not there doing the most important part, is when you're looking in that system and those big numbers are there and it's asking you what you want. The school isn't putting in just the amount that they know is going to cost for you to go to school with your tuition, and the amount that it's going to cost for you to take out just money for books. If your education for that one semester, because it's every semester, only costs about $10,000 or $6,000, depending on the school you go to, why is $40,000 in there in your account? Why is it $30,000? They want you to take out that debt. And then there could be arguments. Well, some people, they need to take out a certain amount because they can't work while they go to school, but it's still predatory. Financial aid should be individualized in terms of having someone working with you through the process, helping you understand and giving you an informed decision about what does this mean in terms of when you transition into adulthood and you're out there, and once you graduate and you're getting a job and you're trying to get a house loan or you're trying to get a car loan, but you're denied because you are backed up in so much student debt that you may not be paying, or it's in forbearance. And so now other lenders don't trust your ability to pay because you have so much debt. Your debt to income ratio, that's a whole nother topic. But we're not thinking of these things because you can't think about something you don't know when you're young or when you're just not informed. So it's not just there are adults right now taking out loans and they don't fully understand what it means to take out a loan. So that was my process in terms of how it happened to me without knowing. It wasn't that I'm just not paying my student loans. I've always paid my student loans. It was that it was just so much interest that I didn't understand. And it became normal to pay the money every month without question, because I knew that everyone had it and it was a part of life. You would know the major three things you would get in life that's normal to have, and they call it healthy debt. But it's not healthy to just owe people all the time. It's a mortgage, a car loan, and student loans.
Well,
and it's
watch this. They call it healthy debt because it is healthy. It keeps the lenders fat. It generates, and so that's one of the things that we talk about here often. And I just want to point out that you talk about the things that people need, and the information they need to have along the way. And I'm grateful that they have you. Like, that's one of the reasons we're doing this, because you are an example to not just parents, not just students, but also policymakers and other people who are in this space, to hear what actually happens in the real world, and how this actually builds up. Because there is this large narrative about that they did that, about this irresponsibility. But when your situation demonstrates in no uncertain terms, and you clearly have mastered the responsibility, you have been doing all of the things you were told to do, and getting the result that just makes other people richer. And again, some of it I won't suggest is malice, because people begin to justify these types of things. I don't know their story, so I gave them all the paperwork. See, they checked off and said I gave them the paperwork, and the state said that this is the paperwork that they need to clearly understand. And see, they even have these check boxes, and they even signed this page on by itself, so they knew you. And it goes from, let me try to help the students, to, if things go wrong, you won't be able to blame me.
Exactly. You're accountable, because why didn't you read the paperwork? They're not reading the paperwork. They can barely get through that chapter during the semester. They're not reading the paperwork.
And the other part too, like, let's be clear. We have conditions, especially now that things have moved to the digital space, we have conditioned people to just click things. Amazon literally is boop, boop. You can, anything you want. You can get a bank account, boop, boop, and a selfie, and you have a bank account. Hell, most of their interactions with their universities or their colleges happen online. And so this just becomes another form, and not even form, another checkbox on the screen. It's like the college, instead of playing what do you call that? Angry Birds or Fruit Ninja or one of those, you're playing go to college. Bloop, 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 bloop. You check enough boxes, you can go to college. Da, 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 da.
Everything is fast right now. And so it wasn't until I started looking at it, it was like, okay, there has to be another way. But then I face a whole nother challenge that some people just don't want to talk about. It's the conversation of getting rid of debt. As soon as, even if it's my circle of friends or associates, I start talking about, like, hey, I'm going to figure out a way how to navigate this and try to get rid of it. Oh, that's money that can go towards something else. Just leave them sitting. Don't worry about it. Everybody have student loans. And so it becomes a fight. It's almost as if it's taboo to even want to pay off your student loans anymore, because people have been brainwashed to think, well, I can't afford it, so I'm gonna just sit there. It's not resources. I don't have nobody to talk to. I feel alone in this process. And so people just don't know what to say or how to go about it. But there is support out there. And what I found was that it does start with understanding the dynamics of your loans first, because once you really start, it's something about seeing something that makes you upset. So I was always being charged interest. I was never upset about that, because I was just like, this is the process. But when I realized that I was being charged almost $5 a day, and I started understanding this is why I can't keep up with my student loans, because it's not that I'm not paying it back, is that you're charging me so much interest. I can't keep up with not just the payment, because I can keep up with the payment, but I can't keep up with the amount of interest that's mounting on top of my payment. And so I'm just like, it's no way that I saw a huge difference when March 13th came, and I decided, let's see what things look like when you're not charged interest. But it's a little hidden secret ingredient still there, because it's not that you don't have to pay interest from March 13th, 2020 moving forward until the payment pause in on December 31st. You still have to pay all the old interest that you owe. And then you have the luxury of making payments, and it goes towards your principal. And so what I did was I tackled that interest, and that was based on getting a part-time job and paying it off. During the time I was starting my own private practice for my own business. But as every other working American, you still need to have, multiple jobs and multiple streams of income until you can successfully, sustain on your own, which I figured out how to do. But in the beginning, I was like, I got to figure out how to get this paid. And then I started going online. My favorite thing, Google, is, like you say, is at the tips of your fingers. I started going online. Any resources in Maryland to assist with loan repayment, any type of resources that can help me out. And then I seen that there was all these resources out there. One in particular in the state of Maryland is the Janet Hoffman Loan Assistance Program, where they will give you money to assist, and it's first come first serve. You fill out an application, and it is based on income. So if you make based on a certain amount, you fall in certain categories. And so what happens is I was like, okay, I'm going to apply for this, but that's even challenging because although there's these different supports, a lot of them are first come first serve, and you hope that you get selected. And I was fortunate enough to get selected, and any money is helpful. It's $3,000. Sometimes people think, well, all this paperwork is not worth, me doing all of this just to get a small amount, but every cent counts. And so what I did was, once I tackled my interest, I realized the government is very shameful, because there's no way. I've been paying since 2014, and in less than 2 years, I was able to cut my student loan balance down by half because all of my money was going towards my principal.
Wow.
So anything I had in terms of, and when I tell you every amount counts, there was some times where I still always made my monthly payment, but sometimes I had extra $5 or $10 left over my budget. And I actually laughed submitting it, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm making this like small payment. But I was like, whatever, because if you hold on to the money though, you're going to spend it. You bound to
This is an investment.
Something as small as $5, you're going to spend the $5. So I started there. And then I realized, think about your money differently. Let's say if you had a car and you paid it off, and you knew you was paying $100, $200, I started looking for ways within my own income how I can save, and whatever I had paid off, I'm going to use that money to put towards my student loans. So don't think of it as extra money, like I made a huge amount and I got extra money in my pocket. No, work towards paying off your debts. So I started giving extra money. It was last year. I started giving, when I paid off my car, an extra $400 something towards my student loans on top of what I was already paying. And then within that 7-month period, unfortunately, my car was totaled. So I was devastated. I was like, I got to get another car. That was my golden ticket to paying off these student loans. And so I felt like I was starting from scratch, but I realized, I said, I still have a huge foot in the door, because one thing that I can say about what the payment pause allowed is people started seeing a difference for the first time. That balance significantly changing because everything was going towards the principal. So it mattered. Interest really does stop you from paying things off if you're only given the minimum. And then if you are doing income based and they say you pay 10% of your income, which is now have been switched to 5%, but it's just not enough. I only advise doing that if you are truly having challenges within your financial means, because you're going to ever be giving away money that you actually never had in the first place. And so with that being said, now I'm getting to the resources of how there was hope for me.
But before we get into your resources, I want to talk about a resource just real quickly. Want to talk about my company, The Grinding Gang. At The Grinding Gang, one of the things that we do is we work with entrepreneurs and small businesses to figure out how to make it through all the noise and to work in their situations. It made me think about this because one of the things that you were talking about is understanding the different scenarios on how things affect your finances. One of the things that we do, we host a workshop on it, but we also do for some of our clients is that we help them develop financial projection budgets, where we take things like interest rates into account, and we give them kind of this dashboard where they can on the Excel spreadsheet, or on the well, it's not Excel, but on the spreadsheet that we share with them, they can make adjustments to how much they pay, and it'll show what will happen, but within the context of their entire lives. So we look at what your full, your food budget is, your business budgets, professional budgets, and all of the money that comes in and all the money that needs to go out. And we identify those places that you can make adjustments. and then you can see how you can change and adjust your budget to, or adjust your behavior to affect your budget. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we start talking about anybody else's resources. We get a chance to talk about mine. Okay.
The grounding game of resources that you just presented, that is an excellent resource, because again, you're talking about putting something on a spreadsheet and someone actually looking at it, and not just knowing that it's something out there in the air that I have X amount of debt, but I actually see it now, and I can also see the progress of what I'm making and where money is going to, and it's good for tracking purposes as well. So that is an excellent resources. And in addition to that excellent resource that you just presented, people truly taking advantage of the Biden's administration in terms of this current loan forgiveness process.
Mm-hmm.
And so this actually was something that I did benefit from, and it's allowing me to have my student loans completely wiped out. But before, I just want to spend a second on mentioning, even this is still a hard process, because I'm still talking to people now. I don't think they truly believe it, because I'm saying like, hey, you can do this. Did you say you had like $10,000 or $9,000 left over? Yeah, you can get your loans forgiven. Just make sure you pay attention. When they put this application process out in October, you got to apply by November 13th, so your loans can be wiped out before December, before the pause payment. And it doesn't mean that it's not. It's just before the pause payment starts.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, I don't believe them, or I'm not worried about that right now, because it's been so much information put out over the years of student loan forgiveness. Let's not forget, with the SELF program, this has been going on for over decades. Yeah. When I was a little child, saying that people would have their loans forgiven after 120 payments, which is equivalent to 10 years. And they finally did that investigation in the recent months. They realized that only like 1% of the Americans actually got them forgiven. They actually put in loopholes to create challenges and barriers so people would not be able to attend.
And wait. We can't let false news happen here, so I got to correct you. It wasn't 1%. It was less than that. Over the course of 10 years. Up until no. But I want to make sure people understand that you were giving them the benefit of the doubt. What actually happened was that in 10 years, out of millions of people who were eligible,
so many,
16,000 were able to get a portion of their loans forgiven. And then when Biden first came in, he was like, well, let's try to see if we can open up some of the restrictions. It only allowed for another 70,000. So it's like even and that's the thing. And I was talking about one of our partners, Breadcoin, earlier. And one of the things I say I love about Breadcoin is that they really let people maintain their dignity. They don't require you to suffer before they want to help you. But that's actually what this is. This is, if you can be one of the good people and for 10 years do everything we say, and then for this,
no mistakes, add that,
and no mistakes, absolutely. And watch this. It's so many of these requirements, and guess what? They keep changing too. So you have all of these things going on, and then the people who signed the bill and took pictures when the president was signing this and that, they still get the photo op, they still get the credit, and none of us get the money.
That's right. That's right. And I want to emphasize on no mistakes, because I've experienced so many people saying something as simple as, number one, it was a little misinformation as well, in terms of, hey, you don't have to, verify employment. And so everybody's paying their, amount. And then after that time period go by, it's like, oh, you never verified your appointment, or you missed one payment in 10 years. So you're not eligible. So you mean to tell me I worked this hard? I'm working in, healthcare, because this is specifically for healthcare professionals, and I'm helping society, working in low income areas, not making much, and I miss one payment, and you tell me that I'm not eligible?
That is one of the things we talk about often here, is that the people in power require a level of discipline for those that they are supposedly serving that they never have to enjoy for themselves. You filled out all the paperwork.
I did.
And what I'm saying, in undergrad, you filled out all the paperwork. You followed all the things that all of the people around you told you to do, and their mistake cost you about $10,000-$15,000. And one of the things is that they're literally, and now that is your responsibility. And again, nobody's arguing that the state shouldn't have paid it. That everybody agrees that the state should have paid it. You have verified. You turned in all the paperwork you were supposed to.
I was in foster care for 14 years. The state of Maryland require at least 1 year in foster care before the age of 18, and they will pay for your student loans. So I had a lot of years in, and I did not know everything in terms of what was required in terms of like, hey, this is what your worker has to do. I just know I was board of the state, and
time. There is, and I don't even want to, I got to be honest, don't even want you to continue that, because here's the thing. It was never your responsibility to know. They have professional development. They are trained. There's a book. There are manuals. There are quality controls. So it does not, I don't give a damn about what you knew. There was nothing for
I was
you
supposed to know. It was the state's job.
Literally because they were your guardian. Like, that's like your mom going like, oh no, you should have been able to fill out my taxes. Go ahead. See, that's what's wrong with you now. You so lazy. You ain't even found my taxes and filled them out and turned them in.
And get this, there is a lot of resources out there for former foster youth. And, you have Department of Social Service saying, we have a small percentage of our former foster youth graduating. They either turn out being homeless or on the streets prostituting. So we want to create this resource just to make sure that, they can get through and have a chance at life. And when I go back and say, hey, y'all never picked up this tab, here's my documentation, I filled everything out. Oh, there's nothing in the policy that allows us to do anything retroactively. I was like, oh, okay. Well, is there someone else I can talk to? No. But I was in care for 14 years. The minimum requirement is at least one. I'm so sorry. Who was your work again? You're talking about years ago. Right. So this is what it looks like. So this is just a small scenario of what various people go through, whether if they were in foster care or not, where they experience some form of injustice when it comes to them navigating the system of student loans. And within that system, they feel like they don't have any support and they don't have anyone to talk to. So what people do, they just leave it alone and they just let it sit there. And you have these predatory lenders just taking advantage. And we're going to garnish your wages if you don't pay us, or we're going to put a lien on your property, or do X, Y, and Z. So you're almost intimidated into paying. You should be given resources to actually help you. And then the most tragic part is when you're trying to buy a home, or when you're trying to provide for your family, $300 or $200 or $400 is a lot of money that can go into your own home than giving it to the student loan people. Because if you look over time, if people have been paying every month and over time, especially if they get closer to 10 years, you've paid your balance plus more, or almost paid your balance. It's just that you're paying so much in interest. And that's the fight that we're fighting today.
I am grateful for the fact and the fight. One of the other pieces that your story highlights is that in order to deal with student loans, it lowers the quality of your life by definition.
Oh, yes.
You talked about like going out and getting a whole other job to pay off or to pay down your debt. Like that means, what that literally means by definition is that out of the 168 hours that you have in a week, everybody has 168. You not only have to take the ones that, unfortunately, in America or around the world, you have to take in order to live. Now you have to take some more out specifically for debt.
And in particular, it does take away from Black wealth, because even now, it wasn't until this most recent announcement of, if you are a non-Pell Grant recipient, you will be given $10,000. If you are, and I wasn't even expecting that. So I was just like, okay, I just have a little bit more to pay, and then my loans are done for the year. It wasn't until they said, are a Pell Grant recipient, then we'll wipe out $20,000. So what I looked and said, well, I want to get my balance back up to $20,000. How can I go about doing that? By calling your service loan provider, because they do allow, if it was since March 2020 during the pandemic, you have been making payments, you can get your monies back and they will forgive the rest. But be sure, if you are a Pell Grant recipient or not, you don't want to do that and then your loans don't get wiped out. Or let's just say you have $15,000 left and you're only getting 10,000. You don't want to go back asking for money because you still have another 5,000 to pay off. So you might.
Whoa. Yeah, the math again. I got scared by the math. Give me a second.
Scared by the math.
Okay. So let's talk about if I do have Pell Grants. So if I have Pell Grants, what do I need to do?
Okay. So if you have a Pell Grant, you can log into, to confirm it, you can log into the Department of Education. I hope, please know your FAFSA, or just put forget password and that'll help you navigate that. But if you go into the Department of Education, it will tell you what loans you have and what grants you have. When you click on the button of what grants you have, it's only 2 sections. It's loans, grants. When you click on, it will specifically say Pell Grant or whatever that grant is. It says if you have a Pell Grant, then you will be a recipient for the $20,000. If you don't, you still get $10,000. But what you need to do, and it's when the federal government puts something out in October, which we don't know specifically when yet, there's an application process because they want to collect information about income. They said there are 8 million Americans that already qualify for the wipeout before the payment pause. But they are not sure if they have everyone's income. And so if you're not sure, just fill it out anyway. I'm sure they have income, but I'm going to fill it out anyway because I want to not get it just because I wasn't sure. But in addition to that, just keep on paying your student loans if you have over that amount, because once that pause payment ends on December 31st, they are no longer going to extend the pause payment again, as they've done multiple times, and that interest will come back up. And so that $10,000 that you had wiped out could easily be mountains of debt over the course of a couple of years coming back. The interest accrues so much. There are people that have student loan balances that are high as mortgages, $100 more because of that. Some people, I had loans taken out for 65. Now my balance is 110. Wait, what? And that's why you got to understand how much interest, because I was paying $5 a day, a little over $5. That's over $1,800 a year in interest I'm paying. So imagine someone tagging on $1,800 a year, and they don't even wait till the end of the year. Student loan predatory lenders don't want to miss out on a dime. We're going to charge you interest a day. Okay, so even if you're giving lump sums and you paying, we're not going to wait till the end of the month to see what you got left and then put your interest on there. We're going to do it a day because we want all our money and we want all your money as well. And we want it interest because we paid for your education and this is what we want. And it should not be like that. And so if I can appeal to anyone, don't just get comfortable with just having debt, or people saying, well, I'm going to have it until I, pass away, or this is something I'm always going to have. Because now this is just only my opinion, but you're not going to, you have different people coming during the president administration every 4 years or every 8 years if they get reelected. Someone may or may not change the rules, as they're always changing, and say, we're going to stop allowing the amount of forbearance and we're going to start enforcing people paying their student loans. So a lot of people rely on deferment and forbearance, like, oh, I don't have it, so I'm just not going to pay it. You don't want it to trickle into, we're going to start garnishing your wages, because a lot of people are comfortable with saying, I'll just defer the loans, I'll just put them in forbearance. But then you're accruing so much interest, but you're not looking at it that it matters because you're not paying it. But that's why it's so high, and that's why we're in an over $1 trillion deficit, because people are struggling to navigate in the system. And it's not your fault. You had a lot of things stacked up against you long before you were born. This was put in place. And so with that being said, I just want to again, I can't say it enough. Try to sit down, reach out to the Department of Education, call your loan service and say, I would like to speak to someone to help me understand my loans, help me understand what my interests were. And the reason why I say what it was, because you can't see what your interest is right now because it's at a zero balance.
Right.
But if you can call and ask what it was previously, because it's going to resume, and then you can start getting a foot up on, your student loans. But it is very, very challenging. But there are resources, but unfortunately these resources take years and years to navigate outside of your own state's funding, that may give you loan assistance based on first come first serve. One of it was the Janet Huffman, Janet JA. You can Google that, and Hoffman, Hoffman, and it's based on income as well. But a lot of loan assistance programs are based on income. They just look at your income, you submit the information, and then they go from there. But please do understand your loan and what you're paying and interest daily. It's not a month, it's daily, because you will get lost in translation with the amount of debt. And then some people get discouraged and it's like, you know what? I have food to put on the table. I have other things to pay. I'm just going to let it be in forbearance or deferment. But then you're accruing so much interest. And so it's never going to go away. It's sitting, it's never going away.
They end up becoming used to it being part of life. Oh, well, this is what you have to do. And some of it, you talk about, and hopefully you'll come back on again, and we can lean a little bit more into your psychology and your social work perspective, and talk really about the mental health and the emotional connection to money, and some of the fears that a lot of people have that lead them to make decisions like this. A lot of times it's not like it's not even cognitive. It is, oh no, too scary. You know what? They had me fill out the forms. I already signed stuff. It's nothing I can do anyway. And rather than it being a true statement, it is just the fear. It's easier to say there's nothing I can do and hide than it is to do the work and then fail.
Right.
And so if you don't mind, actually, even if you do mind, I'm gonna ask anyway for you to come back so we could talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. That's the time.
Good, you keep playing around, you're gonna end up finding yourself the co-host of Mental Health Monday. Keep messing with me. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because so I know you. If you wrote it down, it's for real now. Okay, I'm good. I'm good now. You wrote it down. So tell people how they can contact you. And again, I know we didn't talk a lot about your primary business, but you shared a lot of information, and people may want to reach out to you. I'll make sure I drop your email address and your business links in the description. But you can just tell it to them now if you could.
Okay. So my name is Sashay Wonson. That's Sashay Wonson, Wonson, and I provide mental health service in the Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Perry Hall area. The company is called Timeless Choice, Timeless Choice, Choice. And what that is a psychiatric rehabilitation service, which is known as mental health, and we provide supportive services to individuals in the community to support them with rehabilitation as it relates to job readiness, mental health management, understanding their diagnosis, how to cope with their diagnosis, how to navigate systems within the Maryland communities, how to get resources to be stable within their living arrangements, how to navigate benefits such as food stamps, SSI, SSDI, TCA, and not limited to transportation assistance. I can be reached by phone number 410-622-6618. Again, 410-622-6618. And you can send inquiries for information regarding Timeless Choice services at information, that's INFORMATION, at timelesschoice.org, at TIMELESS choice, CHOICE.org.
All right, and we'll have all those in the description. Sashay, thank you once again for agreeing to come on and agreeing to come on again. Whoop whoop.
Yes, thank you so much for having me back.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. All right.
Bye. Oh, I told you all I know dope people, and I was not lying, and she did not disappoint. Thank you, Sashay, for everything and being willing to share your story with the Black USA News Morning Show family. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I have had a wonderful time with you guys, and we will be back later.